All right, and today we're joined by Harald Harb, who has devoted his life to giving skiers the gift of expert skiing. Now, Harold, I don't necessarily want to embarrass you today, but YouTube loves to send these videos out to new audiences, so there'll be people here that haven't come across you as opposed to your like massive amount of loyal fans online. So there's a good chance people might be meeting you for the first time. So I thought I'd introduce you a little bit differently today and just run through some of the milestones from your ski racing, from your ski coaching, ski instructing, ski camps, and skier alignment career. So at 14, you were skiing a carved parallel turn with your mum's straight skis back in the day when you were in ankle-high leather boots. At 15, you delivered your first ski school lesson. 16, you began your ski racing career. By 18, you earned 2 medals in the Canadian Junior National Championships and competed in your first World Cup race. At 20, you joined the Canadian national ski team. At 23, you became a professional ski champion in 1973. At 24, you coached at NORAM Stratton School in Vermont. 29, you became a US ski team development coach. At 30, you founded the Mount Washington Valley ski team and became a USSA master coach and trainer level 4. At 36, you directed Glacier Creek Academy and produced Olympic gold medalist Tommy Moe. At 40, you returned as a US ski team development coach at Keystone. At 42, you joined the PSA National Demonstration Team and Trainer Program. At 44, you became a PSA examiner. At 46, you directed the Aspen Skier Performance Center. At 47, you published Anyone Can Be an Expert Skier, your first book and video, and served as instruction editor for Skiing Magazine. At 48, you launched Harb Ski Systems and Harb Ski Camps. At 49, you opened the Harb Skier Alignment Center in Colorado. At 52, you published Anyone Can Be an Expert Skier 2 book and video and opened Harb Ski Camps Austria. At 60, you published The Essentials of Skiing book and video. At 75 years young, in January 2025 this year, you launched the Harb Ski Academy. So Harold, you're more than well placed, given your background across racing, coaching, and instruction at the highest levels, to share your views about how ski instruction got to where it is today. So if we can start with your view on the traditional teaching skiing model first. So this is not your primary movements teaching system, the system that you designed from the ground up. We're going to go into that detail a little bit later. But can you explain to the viewers how traditional ski teaching methods evolved over time and how that has led us to the current state of ski instruction?
But how much time do we have? I mean,
Okay.
it's a big topic, you know. Uh, uh, I grew up skiing. My father was a racer in Austria, a mountaineer, mountain guide. He uh, he was one of the first Austrian certified ski instructors, and trained at Hannes Schneider's ski school in St. Anton. And so I grew up with skiing sort of uh, as a lifestyle. And my dad was a ski area manager, a ski school director, all those things. So, you know, I wanted to ski as a kid, and I was skiing, I remember very well, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. What I was doing and what I was skiing. And in those days, we had wooden skis with screw-on edges pretty much and leather boots. And so I I experienced the equipment that was basically the same as when skiing started, except for the heels were more tied down. I remember at 4 and 5, my heels weren't tied down, so those were pretty much almost like a telemark type setup. And then at probably 6 or 7, they had those little loops where the cables would clip to the side of the skis, so your heels would hold down. But clearly, that equipment wasn't designed for tipping the ski on a big edge because those clips were stuck on the side of the skis and they would dig into the side of the snow, right? So, you know, we've come a long way, is basically what I'm getting at here. And I've experienced it at the beginning type equipment and gone through all the evolutions of equipment to the modern day. But And that's really the point probably I'm going to bring up with the old equipment with the skis I first got handed down from my mother, and then the first metal skis that I experienced at 14. That was huge, huge difference. And then, it stayed the same with fiberglass metal, combinations thereof. Um, but, the edges were then inserted into the construction of the ski, and there were no screw-in edges and so on. But the skis were pretty much the same. They're straight, pretty straight, without side cut. And plastic boots evolved. So there were some changes, but skiing teaching didn't change. Uh, the basic beginning was a wedge or a snowplow, and then turn in a snowplow, then wedge Christie. And so there were 4 or 5 stages of that. And I taught that at 15 and 16 on weekends and on holidays and when I was in high school. Uh, I was a good enough skier to ski with ski instructors and teach skiing, and had enough knowledge about the steps from my father and hanging around a lot of ski instructors at the ski areas where my father was managing and coaching and running ski schools. So uh, I knew the basic system, the Alberg technique, and then reverse shoulder technique, and then Canadian technique because I grew up in Canada, which wasn't any different than any other technique around the world from a biomechanical point of view. If you're in a wedge turn scenario, it doesn't matter if you're Swiss, Austrian, Australian, Canadian, doesn't matter. It's all the same movements. So the big breakthrough, I guess, is, I'm going to jump ahead, and I went through many racing years and many coaching of racing, many years without teaching regular skiers. Uh, 25 years of that without teaching regular skiers. But you know, a lot of times you're going to deal with racers, introductory racers, younger racers, and you're going to do the same movements to improve their skiing that you would with a regular skier or recreational skier. So when I was asked to qualify or go through the qualifications of becoming a ski instructor at the age of 42, I got my credentials and I got my full certification, and then the instructors in Alaska where I was were pushing me to become a member of the national demonstration team for PSIA, which is the national organization in the USA. And I did that, and I made the U.S. demonstration team, which is the national team for ski instructors. There are 10 people in that group out of hundreds. Uh, I was coaching instructors around the country. I was training instructors how to teach. And to make the team, I had to teach their system. I had to teach the wedge progression to what they called at that time wide stance, parallel, open stance, or whatever, and then parallel turns. And then they had a category of dynamic parallel turns, short turns, I guess, at the highest levels, which would be in ski school, that was called eight or levels 8 and 9. So I had to teach those things to get to make the team because I wasn't teaching that in my coaching world. I was coaching movements that I coach now, which is, the Phantom move and the PMTS system that I invented. And when I watched skiers, they were making similar errors based on what they were learning instead of their default movements. In other words, racers still often had a wedge because they're pushing the big toe edge to an edge on the outside ski at the top of the turn. And so were recreational skiers. The people I was correcting in racing, I was bringing them back to the transition to get them to the new angles with both skis instead of pushing one ski away. So it was natural for me to think, why can't recreational skiers do the same thing? And that's when I introduced the Phantom move. And then when shape skis came out, I said, "Oh, wow, this is great. I can do this at the beginner level." And then I evolved the whole progression around straight to parallel without a snowplow. And you did it in boots to get a familiarity of the movements. Then you put on short skis on a very flat hill, and we did the movements, which is basically stepping and shuffling and tipping the inside foot, which is start. We're starting with the bottom of the turn when you teach beginners. Then you start with the top of the turn as they evolve closer, so that it can make a fully round turn. Whereas in traditional systems, they don't make a fully round turn. They push the ski away and then they make half a turn, kind of. So very different results from the two systems. And that's kind of what I stuck with. And we wrote instructor manuals and books about it. And the reason was it was just more efficient, much simpler to understand, more direct into the movements that skiers wanted instead of going around and around and around in different directions. They just held you back, slowed you down.
Yeah, and so you've kind of you developed your own system based on working with the best skiers in the world. You reverse engineered what they were doing and also what you'd done in your own career. And then all of a sudden you become a top 10 ski instructor in the country through the demonstration team. And now you're traveling around the country and you're like, yeah, it's kind of a, a, a bit of a surprise for you, I guess, because you had such a good system that you'd built and then you were looking at the differences because and I guess jumping ahead with the Harb Ski Academy that we launched earlier this year, or you launched and I'm the host of, um, we've got new guys coming in and they're often trying to link your system to what they kind of already know, but I've had a quiet chat to them on the side and sort of pointed out best way to go about it is to create a clean sleep and a clean sheet and start from the ground up. And that's what you did. So um, and then once they understand that, then they're good because you created not only from the ground up, but you needed to create all your own language as well because what you identified in your system is based from kind of the World Cup down, whereas the traditional system was taught in a way to manage the old equipment, and it never really kind of made that leap in a sense.
Yeah, the thing is that I started realizing when I was coaching instructors that they had the same mistakes as learners. they, they weren't skiing any differently than the people that were trying to learn how to ski any better. And I mean, in some cases they were a little more refined, but they still had a wedge entry even when they thought they were skiing parallel, which was really a light. You know, the light went on, and well, of course they are because they're not releasing the downhill ski and rolling their edges. They're pushing away from the outside ski and pushing the uphill ski away without intent. It was just so ingrained in their what they taught every day and what they're doing within students that they ended with the same kind of movements in many cases, except for the very top guys who are very athletic and they could get around it. And then, you know, from my coaching and my reverse, like you said, I took the best skiers in the world's movements, and I've always done that, and unwound them to the level that they needed to be introduced to for each individual. So when you try to mix those two, which is sometimes what people do, is they see some of my things that I posted online and my books, and they say, "Oh, I like that. I'm going to pick that out," and "Oh, I like that. I'm going to pick that out." And they try to incorporate in those little pieces into their traditional approach, which just doesn't work because there are too many contradictory parts in a turn and a development of a turn and a timing of a turn. You can't just paste in PMTS on top of traditional and make it work.
Yeah. It's
Plus, it's
probably
very confusing.
yeah, and that's what our new members are finding too, because we've brought them back to just doing a simple onesie in a straight line, like a phantom, straight line, four line, and they're posting their videos, and we're finding that when they move to balance, that they don't realize, but their heel is being pushed out to the side into an old habit of a snowplow movement, which in your system is the exact opposite of what you identified, what the World
Well,
Cup guys are doing.
the the basic difference, I mean, my system is called PMTS direct parallel. PMTS stands for Primary Movements Teaching System, which is the movements at the bottom of the kinetic chain, which is the bottom of your body, which is your feet, ankles, where you move your boots to the side and put your skis on edge. Very few people were even aware of doing that as a way to get the skis on edge. They were using bigger movements and thigh movements and steering movements of the legs and the thighs and the knees moving over, and which doesn't develop the right sequence of movements to get the skis on edge, to get performance out of your skis. So that was an issue right from the beginning, and you can't keep doing that if you want to, advance your skiing to the highest levels. You're going to get stuck along the way. And
Yeah.
so, we've proven this over 25 years, well, it works, and we have developed many expert skiers out of it, and many of our students have turned into instructors for PMTS and trainers because they understand a high level of skiing, and they also perform at a high level of proficiency. And so that has really gained traction with the public through my books, videos, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. We have thousands of skiers all around the world just
Yeah.
doing what we do and following what we do and believing in it because they see the results.
And someone could be watching this and thinking, not really sure what these guys are talking about. I ski parallel, but maybe it's worthwhile defining a parallel turn in the PMTS world, because then what that starts to do is highlight the other. So if you define what we're looking for as coaches within the PMTS ecosystem of coaching.
Well, the big difference is that we change the old outside ski or half of the body at the end of the turn, and we convert it to movements for the inside of the body for the next turn. And you release from the outside to go to the inside movements for the whole turn. And the outside ski is sort of it's the beneficiary of the inside half of your body movements, and you get good edge grip, or you get good tipping to follow the inside foot movements and the counteracting and counterbalance. But then at the end of the turn, when that outside ski has conformed to and copied and duplicated what the inside ski is doing, then you have to release it to get out of the turn, as opposed to trying to release the uphill ski. And that's really a big difference between the two systems. And they're still trying to steer the outside ski, push off the downhill ski, get the uphill ski into the fall line to start the turn, or start the turn with the outside ski, and then try to keep the other ski caught up, which never really happens because you give the uphill ski too much of a head start. We do the opposite. We release the lower ski. The lower ski has a head start. The upper ski then follows it. And that's when you're tipping downhill at the end of the turn, not into the turn. You tip into the turn at halfway through the turn and then tip uphill at the end of the turn. So those are very different approaches, very different understanding of balance. And PMTS instruction system has a circle around it. If you're going to do a diagram of some kind, and that circle is all balance oriented. That is the big encompassing feature of PMTS. We teach balance through all phases of the turn. Whereas in traditional systems, balance is fleeting, hard to catch up to. You put yourself out of balance with the movements that are created, and it keeps you in the same rut for a long time.
Yeah, and our new members who are, getting up to speed with the PMTS system, that they're starting to realize that they're working more with gravity rather than against it. Because if you start pushing the heel out or the skis out to the side, even a small amount, you're kind of destroying the whole process.
Yeah, pushing is a bad word in skiing.
Yeah,
You know, we don't push, we don't extend, we don't drive the knee in, we don't drive the edges in. We build tipping action or and with the correct side of your body so that you can do it at the time when the skis are light, so there's less resistance on the skis with the snow interaction. And then you can free up the movement so much easier. And you've got a free foot to tip, and the outside ski then is the heavy foot, and it can follow the actions of the inside foot.
yeah. And I mean, you've got like 120 odd videos on your YouTube channel already where you've described all of this in detail. That's why we're not going into like a big sort of details thing here or a masterclass on it. Um, because and funnily enough, I was posting just yesterday some of your stuff to one of the members, and it was from 12 years ago, right? But it doesn't change because your system is biomechanically based. Can you speak to a little bit of how that works? So basically, you've been saying the same message for the last 25 years. It's refining like smidges here and there, but you kind of had it.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
body only works well in a certain way, and you don't want to fight the gravity, and you don't want to fight the physics, the forces that are being dealt with when you're putting a ski on edge. You want to move with them, and that's very different in PMTS. We move with the forces, and if you watch my videos, you can see a totally different way of skiing. It's smooth. It's not. It doesn't look as energetic. It looks more smooth and connected, but it has a lot of energy in it that isn't that noticeable because we don't have to make these quick movements that get an edge in because we're late with the edges and then having to drive the edges in hard and hitting, a hard edge set kind of abrupt movement, which you see in a lot of skiing, even at the high end, with a lot of skiers who use the extension delay steering with no weight on the ski approach, which is the traditional approach.
yeah, yeah. So athletically gifted, you know, few can they it looks like they're getting away with stuff, but you're teaching this system to from beginners up, aren't you? So they're never really having to unlearn anything also.
That's another big feature of PMTS. You build all the way through. You don't build to a certain point, then you have to reverse everything, go back and start over again, which is very traditional in the original systems. Because once you learn a snowplow, you got to undo the snowplow. It's just so counterintuitive. Whereas if you learn with tipping the inside foot and then following with the outside foot right from the beginning, you're going to be on the right track right away. You're not having to unlearn anything.
Yeah, that's right. Because we define a parallel turn as the tail of the ski moving through the same point as where the tip of the ski is.
Right.
And we teach that in boots on flat snow. So students are actually learning what the ski needs to do to be successful. Can you speak to that? Because um, if because the people who are watching are thinking, well, what are you talking about? I'm skiing parallel, but there's two types of parallel kind of turns out there, aren't there?
Well, you can, even if you're really good at how do you say, managing your skis to make them look parallel, you're still pushing your tails up the hill when you extend out of a turn to
Yeah,
steer the ski that's unweighted. And we unweight the ski in transition. We don't unweight the ski to get it into a new turn. That's a big difference.
yeah, yeah,
And that's fundamentally, if you haven't seen our system, you don't know what that means. But we don't fight gravity to push off the outside ski. We give in to the outside ski and give in to gravity to get to your new edges and get your body to the other side of the turn, other side of the ski to get into the turn with new angles.
yeah. And then because one of our members posted, because we catch up 3 times a week live, right? So you get this opportunity to have your questions answered, and all of our students are transitioning across. They're transitioning from a trend a traditional understanding across into PMTS. And one of the guys was posting, um, why am I struggling in the powder, right? Because he hasn't quite mastered the movements yet. But the minute you start doing see, because it's really easy to cheat on the groomers, isn't it? Like it's really easy to push the tail of the ski out and feel like you're skiing parallel, but you're not actually. But then the minute you get into the powder, suddenly it because I had a chat with him and I said, "Is this what's happening in the powder?" He's like, "Yeah, exactly." And I'm like, "Well, we've got to get you back."
Well,
Yeah,
that's the other side of that whole traditional thing is you have to learn a new technique to ski powder. You have to learn a different technique to ski bumps. So now we do this. We teach a bump class and a bump camp, and when we have powder, we teach a powder camp within the camps. So if you don't have the PMTS movements, you're going to go right back to your traditional movements that don't work very well in those situations. Because you have to learn how to use PMTS to do bumps properly, or else you're floundering and really struggling a lot in the bumps.
yeah, yeah, and
Not very comforting.
no, that's right. So I guess it's I guess in a sense it's the most efficient way to ski down the mountain. Um, um,
Well, I've many skiers who have converted, and they're converted to PMTS, and they have realized that they have I lost my mic?
no, you're good. You're good.
Okay, you can hear me on the mic.
Yeah.
I can't hear you anymore for some reason.
Oh God.
Okay, so technical issues, no big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, they've converted over to PMTS, and now they're loving skiing powder like they've never skied it before, and they're able to ski groomers and enjoy it, which was something they weren't able to do before. They didn't like groomers. They would only wait for powder days and ski in the trees, and which is really unfortunate because skiing on groomers is great fun.
Yeah, that's right. And so that leads us into the next section, Harold, is that I'm hoping you can hear me. um, is that the alignment question?
Well, alignment is a whole different ball of wax. That's boot fitting and doing it properly so you can move properly.
Yeah.
If you don't have that done, 85 to 90% of skiers need something done to their boots to get their legs moving in the correct order.
Yeah.
And and if they don't have that, they're making adaptive movement.
Yeah. So you earlier you talked about a circle where you teach balance, and then what you found back in the day when you were working with your elite athletes was that some of the athletes that were giving you like great indoor results in athleticness weren't necessarily your fastest athletes on snow. So you started then optimizing ski races alignment. Can you talk us through that and how that's evolved into the camps and the alignment center?
Well, with ski racing, half a degree of taking the bottom of your boots in or out can make seconds of difference in a over a minute course. And I started doing that on training days with video and changing the bottom of the boot angles to see what performance can be derived from doing that. And because I saw that the legs weren't getting far enough on angle underneath the body and things like that that you would notice. And some skiers their skis would run away from them if they got in the back seat too early. All these things have alignment are consequences from alignment that is misaligned. And when you're talking about elite skiers who are really top notch, can make parallel turns on ice at high speed and make tight turns and high end ski racing, they they can benefit tremendously by small changes. And then when you see a regular recreational skier, it's so easy to see that the in you know, alignment problems with ski boots. So we started building an alignment center, doing these changes with footbeds and fitting and cuff adjustments and inserts that we make for ourselves that we put in boots to change cuff angles. I mean, our alignment system is the protocol is very elaborate. We've evolved it to a very high standard, and right now, everybody who comes to camp, very few people don't get aligned when they come to camp. And if they don't get aligned and they thought they were aligned, they end up getting aligned during the camp of some because they see that they're not up to the performance levels that other people in the camps are doing who are aligned properly.
Yeah, that's right. Because you teach balance at camp, and so even if they're not at a high skill ski level, after a while they can start to, oh, hang on, I'm in a boot that I don't feel the same kind of balance, and then you go in and you optimize their balance. So basically, you've got a level playing field, and then you keep going and keep working on the movements that bring you success.
Movements become much easier when you're aligned properly, and you
Yeah,
learn faster.
yeah.
You just learn you just end up learning so much. You accelerate your learning tremendously.
Yeah, because also if you misaligned, which one of like we've been going through, obviously it's a really hot topic inside the new Harb Ski Academy, right? Because everyone's coming in, they're finding about alignment. They're like, oh my God, maybe this is part of the reason why I'm struggling trying to balance in through transition and stuff like that. And then so Jeff has gone through part of the process. We're trying to help him virtually, and he's realized how important it is, and he's jumping on a plane and heading to Colorado I think next month to get everything sorted, which is
Well, we have people coming from all over the world to our alignment center, China, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Europe. I mean, it's amazing. South America, they fly in to get their boots done and to our center because there's nowhere else in the world that's being done this way.
yeah, that's right. And we've got a masterclass coming up where you're going to talk about the ideal foot function within the boot, which is going to open up another can of worms for everyone because they're going to realize what they're missing. Like in my situation, I've got incredible chicken legs, right? I have nothing on the sides of, I have no lower calf or anything like that, and I'm in a size 30 boot, so I don't get the same value. So we've had to accommodate for that through the alignment center, and all of a sudden you go, oh, how long has this been going on for? Suddenly I can, when I tip, I'm actually getting complete value for tipping, whereas in the past I was tipping, but I wasn't getting the same results as an aligned skier was.
Well, there's imagine a recreational skier has no background whatsoever, and they're not getting the information from when they buy the boots from the ski shop, and they end up compensating, frustrated, not evolving. They're stuck, and that's not necessary. That's not the way skiing operates. You can ski so much better than people get credit for. Ski instruction doesn't give people credit for their abilities. They just get them going, and then that's it. Whereas our camps and through our academy that we started, we're evolving people's understanding in their skiing and teaching the language that makes sense, teaching the movements that make an understanding happen. And I'm not even on the slope with them, and they're learning based on the videos we're putting up and the explanations we're putting up. And people are going out and they're improving, and we can even identify if their alignment needs more work. And they may not be able to do it at home, but we'll get them to a place eventually where they can change their boots. They may be in the totally wrong boot, and the ski shop people just don't understand that that's so crucial. They ski shop fitting isn't based on their people skiing. Our alignment center and fitting is based on how you ski better, make you a better skier through the boots that we set you up with.
Yeah.
That's a totally different approach.
I know you mentioned to the guys uh, on one of the calls that you didn't want to set up your own skier alignment center and shop, but you did it because you had to, and you only stock the boots that actually make you a better skier rather than anything else.
Yeah, we had to. We were getting people coming to our camps that were in totally the wrong equipment, and you. It's so frustrating to teach and frustrating to learn, obviously, because you can't learn very well if you're on the wrong equipment. So we started putting equipment in our shop. I started a shop that made skiers better. We only sell stuff that makes skiers better. We don't sell stuff to sell skis. We don't have a huge inventory. We buy the boots that we know are going to work. We buy the skis that we know you can learn on, that help you turn, as opposed to these skis that are being sold now we see on the hill that just don't help you at all. They actually hinder you from learning.
Yeah.
So you
So
need good advice. The
yeah,
bottom line, people aren't getting good advice in skiing. They're not getting good advice at the beginning. They're not getting good advice to learn, and they're not getting good advice with their ski boots. So they're stuck. A lot of
yeah. And that was one of the reasons why we reconnected was because you were out on YouTube land and also on forums and seeing the advice that was out there, and you're like, we've got to get the message out once again, right? I mean, you've already published really successful books and videos, and I think you've had over 6 point something million views, right, on your YouTube channel. But there's a whole industry out there, or industry of people trying to improve their skiing, in a sense, I guess, that aren't necessarily getting access to you and the information that's actually going to help them fast track the process.
well, people are, people who investigate, people who search, people who look around, they find it. People who go, well, we've got to go to a ski shop, then we got to go to a ski school, and they don't look around to see what's out there. They just think everything's at the highest level or everything's the same. They don't get the benefits of all the possibilities, and that's what we're trying to inform people about. There's a lot more you can do. It doesn't cost more. It's the same cost to do it right as to do it wrong, to get involved in skiing and get on the right track with skiing.
Yeah. And also your books and videos are like, the ebooks are 10, $15 or something. So you can invest pretty lightly. And your YouTube channel's free. There's 120 odd videos there. And from beginning lesson right through. And
Yeah.
we're still taking the new guys in the academy. We've taken them right back to lesson one, haven't we? Because we suddenly saw where they were at. And even though these guys are good, strong skiers and could ski, blues and black runs competently, it's the little things that'll trip you up and that you don't realize that you're doing. So we've sort of brought them back with that 30-day, the 30-day onesie challenge, which everyone's just jumping on with. So it's probably a good chance to change gears a little bit, and we'll just talk about the new Harb Ski Academy that you launched this year in January. And so I'll explain a little bit. So I'm fortunate. I've got the best job in the world because I get to hang out with Harald, who's on the couch 2, 3 times a week, and we have 3 different shows where Harald comes in live, and all the members get to ask Harald questions, or there's master classes, or there's video reviews. Each show has a different theme, and but the cool thing is every Saturday consistently, you're just available on the couch to do Q&A, and it's often the guys that weren't on the live calls consume the information during the week. They go out and try it, and then they've got follow-up questions. So there's this consistency of what's going on. So what's been your reaction so far to the academy and how it's going and where do you
Well,
see?
we started in January, and we're 2 months into it almost now,
Yeah,
and the level of understanding is incredible. You do have to learn a new language about skiing, and if you haven't learned the language before, then it's really easy. You'll learn the right one right from the beginning,
yeah,
and that's great. If you can find the academy and how to join up, you're going to see a huge improvement. You're going to get so much good advice that you're going to be discerning and you're going to be discriminating about what you listen to, what you do, and how you go about it. And the academy is a wealth of that kind of information. Uh, and the members are great. They're really into it. They're really starting to understand at a high level, and they're going out and doing it, and they're getting the improvements they want. And this is an ongoing program. We just keep introducing new ways to do things, how to refine your own skiing, how to address it, where do you want to fix it, what part of the turn do you want to fix. It just can go on, and you just get better and better, and you jump and leap over stages that get you stuck, and you don't get stuck. You just move on
Yeah.
to the best and next level.
One of the things I like is that you're constantly scanning the questions, answering questions in the chat group as well, because there's a chat. It's not just the live shows. Plus, there's a map of the world where all the members are, which is super cool. It's interactive, so you can literally see where our members are located around the world. But you're constantly reacting to where the questions are coming from, and then you're filming during the week and banking the footage, and then we bring it in the following week, and it's the members are like, I can't believe this is exactly the lesson that I want, and yeah, because it's not a surprise because you've been doing that.
It's pretty easy to identify what people need. That's a big deal. And when you can identify it, then I go out and do it. I go out and record it, and and then I present it, and it's sort of live, not live, like I'm
Yeah,
there when I'm doing
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
it's a day old, the video,
yeah,
and maybe 2 or 3 at the most, but it's current. It's not.
yeah,
Even though 10 years ago when I was doing videos, they really are appropriate today and they
yeah,
still are
yeah,
valid.
yeah.
But I always like to do new stuff because I have new uniforms. I want people to see my new uniform.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic, but also at the same time, it's great to pull something out, and it's like, see, guys, it literally hasn't technically changed because the biomechanics and the fundamentals of skiing, you you saw it, you unpacked it, and you've been sharing this gift of expert skiing knowledge your whole career. Our job is just to try and get the message out for those people that are kind of thinking, oh, so they define a parallel turn. So the ski tip has to, so that means there's no push, there's no, you know, at, and it's like, oh, well, obviously that's going to be way more efficient if I'm skiing powder, if, the tail of the ski is moving through where the tip is. But to learn that, you're not going to figure that out while you're skiing powder. You got to get back on the greens. And that's why we
Yep.
introduced the onesie challenge with the guys, which is a pretty straightforward task, which is a 4-line, pick up, like balance on one ski, pick it up, bring it in, tip it over to the little toe side, and then check out your track and how do you finish. But because of that,
Well,
yeah,
it's important for people to be able to be introduced at a level where they can perform the movements. Because we don't want to scare people away by saying, well, you're going to do expert movements right away. You are going to do expert movements right away, but they're at a level that you can be introduced to them and have success immediately with those expert movements. And you can come in at any level and change your skiing immediately with what we're doing on the academy and what we teach at our camps and with PMTS skiing. And that's the big difference. And, we touched on, well, I can go back 10 or 15, even 20 years and look at my videos, what I was teaching. And literally the mechanics haven't changed. And then people will say, well, you just said that traditional skiing hasn't changed either. So why is is PMTS not changing any better than traditional skiing not changing? Well, because once you understand how the body really functions and your skeleton aligns to your skis and everything, the biomechanics don't change. Your body hasn't changed. So we've found out how your body mechanics work at the best level, most efficient level. We don't have to change it because it's working so well. Whereas we have found with traditional teaching that hasn't changed, those are not efficient movements, and they still haven't changed them to make them better. They're still doing the old inefficient movements.
yeah,
That's the big difference right there in a nutshell.
yeah, yeah. And so our guys are transitioning from what they thought was good skiing into what they're now understanding is good skiing. And now it's just a process of helping them to refine their winning movements and detune the ones that don't help them. And I think you made a really good point the other day. You were explaining to the guys about it's not a matter of I'm moving up less. It's a matter of, you know, removing that movement completely. And the guys are like, oh my God, like we get these
Well,
reactions. Yeah.
it's not a matter of reducing the bad movement to a level where it's almost not detectable. it's a matter of changing the movement to the opposite movement that makes it really change. And that's what we do on all of the essential movements, which are 5 essentials. And going bending by this much as opposed to
Hmm.
extending by this much is a totally different world. It's a totally different biomechanics. It's a totally different way of making a turn happen, and it's a totally different result in a much more efficient and pleasing, satisfying way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what has been people that show up to camp who have read your books and videos. That's when that those real aha moments. They're like, oh, I get it now. Like, because I read the books, I watched the videos, I saw you ski. I'm trying to figure out how to ski like Harold. And then they're like, oh, I get it. Like, even a little bit is still incredible. Well, it's just the wrong biomechanics of what if I want to achieve expert skiing.
Well, great.
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much described everything we can describe here on a talk. So,
Yeah, so thank you, Harold, for showing up. And for those that are interested, I'll put in a link below to Harold's camps. There's a wait list for next year, and you're welcome to join the Harb Ski Academy. This was just an opportunity to kind of point out where we're coming from as opposed to everyone else. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Thanks so much, Harold, for sharing your time.
well, thank you. That was fun.